Erich Fromm, a psychoanalyst and humanist philosopher, believed that the true mission of human existence was not to follow a predetermined path or pursue external goals, but rather to live authentically and deeply, recognizing oneself as an essential part of life. For him, the search for meaning is not a fixed script to be followed, but a continuous construction that is revealed in the way human beings relate to themselves, to others and to the world. In Fromm's view, living fully is a continuous process of transformation. It's not just about surviving or meeting the demands of society, but about becoming a truly human being. Human beings are not born ready, they need to be formed throughout life, exploring their inner potential, cultivating their conscious freedom and developing their ability to connect with others through love. Thus, the meaning of life is not something given, but something that each person builds as he or she commits himself or herself to his or her own growth and to the reality that surrounds him, her. For Fromm, love occupies a central place in existence. But not idealized romantic love or possessive attachment, he spoke of a mature love, which is born of generosity, responsibility, and deep understanding of the other. Love, according to him, is an act of courage and emotional maturity. It is a daily practice that involves dedication, listening, respect, and acceptance. True love does not imprison or dominate, it liberates and transforms. Therefore, finding meaning in life necessarily involves learning to love authentically. Another essential idea in Fromm's thought is the distinction between being and having. He saw in modern culture an obsession with accumulation, consumption and possession, as if the value of life was in what we have achieved materially. This logic, for him, leads to alienation, emptiness and unhappiness. The true meaning of life is not in what we have, but in who we are. Developing empathy, sensitivity, creativity, and awareness is much more important than accumulating objects, status, or wealth. Being is linked to living experience and inner fulfillment, while having is attached to an illusion of security and control. Living authentically, for Fromm, requires the courage to question social norms, break with imposed standards and choose a truer, if less comfortable, path. Freedom, which for many is seen as an absolute ideal, can also generate fear and insecurity. Therefore, many people prefer to give up autonomy and follow orders, rules, and rigid structures that free them from the responsibility of choosing. Fromm called this the escape from freedom, one of the central themes of his work. For him, human beings need to face the challenge of being free and, at the same time, responsible for their own existence. In this sense, the meaning of life is deeply linked to inner freedom. Being free is not simply being able to do what you want, but choosing with conscience, acting ethically and answering for your decisions. It is to live with presence, purpose, and responsibility. It is not to be carried away by apathy or conformism, but to make a personal commitment to building a meaningful life. Finally, Fromm saw the human being as a being in transition, neither entirely instinctive like animals, nor fully rational as philosophical ideals claim. We are always between two poles, seeking balance, meaning and fulfillment. This existential tension, far from being a problem, is what drives us to grow. The challenge of life is precisely this, to transform oneself continuously, to be an agent of one's own destiny, to love deeply and to live authentically. When reflecting on the meaning of existence, Erich Fromm came to a clear and profound conclusion: living with purpose requires learning to love consciously. But for him, love was not a simple passing feeling or an idealized romantic emotion. Love, in Fromm's perspective, is an active force, an inner power that requires maturity, effort, and continuous practice. It is one of the pillars of human achievement and perhaps the highest way of living in harmony with oneself and others. True love, according to Fromm, requires 4 fundamental elements: care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge. Caring is more than protecting, it is genuinely caring about the well-being of the other. To be responsible is to make effective and emotional commitments without suffocating the other with expectations. To respect is to recognize the other as a unique being, with their freedom and individuality. To know is to be truly interested in the other, going beyond appearances and connecting with their essence. This mature love is very different from the common idea of love that we often see in mass culture. Fromm harshly criticized the way love was transformed into a commodity, a consumer product, or an idealized and superficial feeling. In many relationships, people relate to the other as if they were acquiring something. They look for someone who meets their needs, who fills voids, or who works as a mirror of their needs. For Fromm, this type of bond is not love, but rather emotional dependence in disguise. According to his view, only those who have developed their own individuality are capable of truly loving. This means that love requires the person to be at peace with themselves, to have a balanced self-esteem, to understand their emotions and limits. To love is not to lose oneself in the other, but to find in the bond an opportunity to grow together. It is in this meeting space, where two beings recognize and welcome each other, that the meaning of life begins to take shape. In addition, Fromm also saw love as an antidote to existential loneliness. We live in a world that, even connected by technologies, still suffers from isolation, the superficiality of ties and inner emptiness. For him, the human being has a deep desire for union, for belonging, for fusion with something greater. This yearning can be diverted into destructive paths, such as fanaticism, authoritarianism, or dependencies, or it can be channeled constructively, through love, solidarity, and commitment to life. Love, in this context, is not limited to a relationship between two people. It manifests itself in different dimensions: love for friends, love for nature, love for humanity, love for life itself. It is an attitude towards the world, an inner disposition of openness, compassion, and surrender. When love becomes a guiding principle, the human being starts to live with more meaning, because he finds satisfaction in giving, in serving, in contributing to something greater than himself. But this journey is not simple. Fromm reminds us that love requires discipline, patience, and humility. It does not happen by chance, nor does it depend only on the affinity between people. It is necessary to cultivate love as one cultivates a garden, with daily care, attention to detail, and willingness to face adversity. And perhaps that is why it is so rare in contemporary society, where immediacy, selfishness, and superficiality prevent the construction of deep bonds. However, even in the face of difficulties, Fromm believed that the capacity to love is present in all of us, like a seed waiting for the right moment to blossom. The meaning of life, then, is revealed when we allow ourselves to live this love fully, by looking into the eyes of the other and seeing their humanity, by reaching out without expecting a reward, by being true to ourselves and, at the same time, open to the world. True love is not the escape from loneliness, but the recognition that authentic connection is possible when there is presence, truth, and surrender. It is in this surrender that life finds its fullness. And for this reason, for Fromm, loving is the most complete way of living. Erich Fromm understood life as a continuous process of inner awakening, in which human beings, when developing their consciousness, are faced with a fundamental choice: to live automatically and submissively or to courageously take responsibility for their existence. In this view, the meaning of life is directly linked to true freedom, not that illusory freedom to do what one wants at any cost, but the ability to act with conscience, ethics, and authenticity. In the work, The Fear of Freedom, Fromm reveals a profound aspect of human nature. Many people, instead of truly freeing themselves, flee from freedom. This is because being free requires making decisions, taking consequences, facing the existential emptiness and insecurity of being alone in front of the world. To escape this weight, the individual often submits to authoritarian structures, rigid ideologies, predetermined social roles, or even empty routines that anesthetize their anguish. This escape, according to Fromm, is one of the biggest obstacles to the meaning of life. Living with purpose means just the opposite. It is having the courage to know yourself, to recognize your own contradictions, to choose paths that express your inner truth. And this requires constant work, emotional vigilance, and, above all, authenticity. Authenticity, in this context, is not only a personality characteristic, but an attitude towards life. It is when the person acts according to what they believe, feel, and value, even if it goes against external expectations. It is to look within, identify what really matters, and align your actions with that inner center. For Fromm, the more a person lives according to his essence, the closer he is to discovering the meaning of life. Another essential point is the role of critical consciousness. Fromm did not see the human being as a passive being, shaped only by the environment, but as someone capable of reflecting, questioning, transforming, and creating. Alienation, for him, is a disease of the spirit that causes people to distance themselves and the world. Living with meaning, therefore, also involves reconnecting with reality, seeing beyond appearances, understanding the social mechanisms that influence our behaviors, and developing an active and responsible posture. This critical stance extends to the way we deal with others and the planet. Fromm believed that love and freedom should go hand in hand with solidarity and commitment to collective life. The individual search for meaning is not separate from the common good. When each one commits himself to his own flourishing, but also to the well-being of the other, a more just, humane and living society is built. In this sense, life does not find its value only in great achievements or extraordinary moments. The meaning is revealed in the simple gestures, in the care of those you love, in attentive listening, in the choice to live honestly even in the face of adversity. Plenitude is more present in small acts than in great ideas. As Fromm said, living is an art, and like all art, it requires dedication, patience, and surrender. The human being, therefore, is called to become an artist of his own existence. Instead of following ready-made models or other people's recipes, he needs to learn to create his own path. This creation involves doubt, pain, and effort, but it also brings with it beauty, depth, and meaning. It is this process of conscious, loving, and free construction that, for Fromm, represents the true fulfillment of human life. In the end, the meaning of life, according to him, is not something that is found outside of us, like a hidden prize waiting to be discovered. It is something that is built from within, with every decision, every bond, every gesture of authenticity and love. And the closer the human being gets to his truth, the more he feels that he is truly alive, and that this life, despite its pains, is worthy of being lived with integrity.